PURIFI EVAL, a 425 watt amplifier into 4 ohms. The power amp to rule them all? Let's talk. This power amp was yeeted across the desk by my friend Grant. Thank you so much, mate. I really do appreciate it. Whilst leaving this, he also left the ZMF to you Americans VC Verite closed. The review will be coming for that shortly. This is a DIY amplifier akin to the Suzy Dinello, a headphone amplifier that is DIY just like this, where you buy the board, the case and everything else and put it together yourself or get somebody to commission it for you. Review up here. Absolutely outstanding. Now, this power amplifier is not only clean, not only brings the chops, but its price point is quite incredible. Coming in at around £900 for the parts, and obviously if you can build it yourself, you'll be cruising around that price point, and if not, you'll probably be able to buy one of these for about £1,100. And trust me, for that price point, you will see if it's worth it or not. Let's get some of the housekeeping out of the way. This amplifier can put out 450 watts into 2 ohms. Minimum load for this amplifier is 2 ohms. Then we have 425 watts into 4 ohms, 227 watts into 8 ohms when you're powering speakers, and then if we go all the way up to 60 ohms where Sesvaro cruises, we get roughly around 26 watts of power. Not that you need actual power to drive headphones loudly. This is a misconception. It's not about getting a headphone loud. I've been having a lot of discussions about this topic and it's still on my mind. We will get to that at some point, but it's about control. Then we have distortion at 0.00017, which is not too bad actually for a power amplifier. It's quite impressive. The frequency response for this amplifier is 0 Hertz all the way up to 60 kilohertz. So basically your ants and your bats are both covered if you've got those as pets. And efficiency for this amplifier is at 94%. Inside the unit, we have a pair of 1ET400A modules, a Hypex SMPS 1200 A180 power supply, not a toroidal one, but a freaking good one all the same, that provides the juice for this amplifier. Summing up the specifications and internals of this amplifier, let's take a hardware tour. So, we have a metal chassis that is quite light. I mean, you can yeet this across the desk pretty easily. Solid construction, nothing at the front apart from some LEDs, and then nothing on the sides obviously, and then the rear. This is where the important things are happening. We have a fantastic feeling power switch, a kettle cable connection obviously, a couple speak-on connections for your speaker outputs. Not only that, but we have banana connections as well. This cable was provided to us for the review by Mimic Cables. Thank you so much, mate. I really do appreciate it. All of his information is down below if you're interested in cables, headphones, amplifiers. He has become a dealer for Benchmark, he has become a dealer for the OR, he has become a dealer for IFI and Audacy, and the list is numerous. If you are interested in any of these products, do head out and give him your support. He really is a fantastic guy and incredible support as well. Thank you so much. So that's pretty much it. This amplifier is obviously balanced, and we have a pair of XLR inputs. This amplifier is completely balanced. We only have a pair of XLR inputs and a pair of release mechanisms, and that's about it. So, setting the amplifier aside here, there is nothing else that actually concerns us because there is no high-low gain, there is no RCA inputs, there's no switches, there's no knobs, there's nothing. All you get is just pure power. This cable is actually going from banana plugs straight into 4-pin XLR female to connect our very, very hungry, not sensitive headphones. that gives us a good summary of hardware and the internals of this amplifier. But how does it actually perform? I had this amplifier on the table simultaneously with the benchmark. At the moment, that benchmark has gone to Grant, who left this amplifier here for review, and our own pair of benchmarks for monoblocking will be landing at the beginning of January. We're going to step into the speaker realm and bring Martin Logan's in for review, so if you are interested in that, you know what to do. Subscribe, press the notification icon, kick it, punch it, and show ConvinceMeAudio your support that I appreciate most profusely. Let's take the sound of this amplifier first. The characteristics of this amplifier is neutral, transparent, see-through, and quite musical. It's very much akin to the A90. It feels like the big brother of the A90. It feels like the topping A90 has grown up. And I'm going to be bringing that amplifier up a lot in this review because it's the next logical step, jumping from the A90 that you've had to power your Sasvaras and your Dianas because of funding, because of money, and you just wanted something temporary to make those headphones run while you were saving up money. Now, this amplifier sits nicely between the A90, which is your beginner amplifier for those truly high-end headphones, and something like the benchmark AHB2, the Or, or the Bakun in the very higher end of the spectrum of headphone or speaker amplifiers for headphones specifically. Because I have to be careful in saying that, because speaker amplifiers can go up into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. But I'm talking for normal people, basically, cruising around $3,000 to $5,000. So let's break down the frequency response of this amplifier, starting with the bass region. Now, when you are at the A90 stage and you've got headphones such as Aria, review up here, Diana's, review right next to it, and other headphones starting from the lower tier flagships to the mid-tier flagships that are not sensitive, because the Dianas and the Arias both are at 92 dB sensitivity, but they are both only 41 to 42 ohms, but they're not very sensitive, and they do tremendously scale up with good current and good gear. Throwing the Aria on this headphone from the A90 was a shock. I'm telling you that now. When we first tested it with a benchmark, it was incredible and obviously is to be expected, but the difference a speaker amplifier seems to make for Aria is just insane. I did not expect that, honestly. So the difference you will get from the A90 to this amplifier in the bass region is quite vast. It's very impactful. It's like the whole bass region swells up. Rather than become bloomy, it seems to like draw and soak in the power so that it's quick, it's nimble, the attack is hard, and it just seems to control the drivers far more efficiently than the A90 pushing a cart as hard as it can, because it can't seem to provide enough current to drive the low end of an Aria or a Diana. But the sound characteristics of the bass region is very similar. You will not be surprised. You will get the same tonality with more texture, more definition, and more separation than you do on the A90, because the stage, as we will get onto in a minute, is much bigger on this unit than the A90 behind me. But the actual tonal balance and sound characteristics is in the same vicinity, just with much higher performance. Texture is very good actually in the bass region, but what is good is the slam, the impact, and the nimbleness and the quick response of the driver and the actual punch. As we climb from the sub-bass to the mid-bass region, definition, punch, and attack is far more prominent. It's far more isolated and it's far more powerful than the A90 behind me. It seems to be a bigger image. For example, if you've got a kick drum, taking my favorite track for testing on amplifiers, the Infected Mushroom Converting Vegetarians album, the first track, that kick drum seems to be bigger, more defined, larger, more isolated, more punchy, with more texture and more attack. Climbing up to the upper bass region, It's got good texture. It's actually very, very well balanced. This amplifier is a very, very well balanced amplifier like the A90, and it provides the same tonality from the sub bass to the upper bass region, climbing up through that frequency from 20 Hz all the way up to around 150, 200 Hz, 250 Hz. The mid-range on this amplifier is actually very transparent, just like the rest of the tonality, very see-through and very resolving, but it's got a good characteristic of bringing the mid-range forward when the track calls for it and pushing it away depending on the mix from the studio. There is no separate coloration from the bass region to the mid-range region. It's got the same tonality and tonal balance, which I'm very, very fortunate for. Instruments in this region sound pretty big. The stage in the mid-range region that's bound to it is pretty big and gives good definition of instruments, room to breathe. It's basically like the A90, but somebody went, okay, let's push everything back a bit and to the sides a bit and behind you a bit and give ourselves a nice bit of room to breathe. Vocals in the mid-range do come forward and go back as the mix requires. The tonal balance of vocals is actually pretty good. It's quite well detailed. It's definitely more detailed than the A90. And you can hear the texture of the voice, and you can hear the rasp and the chest voice. It does bind to the upper bass region quite well for vocals and binds really well with the lower treble region for the upper end of the spectrum of vocals when girls or guys go extremely high. The tonal balance stays consistent all the way up to the upper mid-range, which is very, very thankful. Like I've repeated many times, you will not be surprised if you're jumping from the A90. You will not be very, very surprised going from the A90 to the PURIFI EVAL, I love that name, to the benchmark AHB2. They all live in the same realm of tonal balance, which is a good thing. And the fact that this can nip at the heels of the benchmark is just astonishing. Not quite there, but it does nip at the heels of the benchmark. And remember, the benchmark is 3 times the price. When climbing up to the treble region, this is where things get a little complicated. This amplifier is definitely slightly treble tilting, so that the treble region seems to be a little bit more announced, a little bit more forward than I would like. With a lot of headphones like the Verite Closed, like the Diana's, it does a fantastic job. It's actually very good in balancing out the headphones characteristics. It's very well detailed. It's really good for strings, really high resolution and very resolving. But for headphones, such as neutral bright headphones like a Zeospantera or like an LCD XC back here, it exacerbates this region by a tiny amount, so that your source, the source that is actually being input through this amplifier, even using a nice DAC that's a ladder DAC like the Spring Extreme Edition behind me, still can sound a little harsh. Not enough for you to go ouch, but it's enough that it's got a little bite. But for very well mastered tracks, it gives you excellent resolution, excellent tonal balance. The timbre on this amplifier is not too bad. It's actually exceeding the A90 by quite a bit. In fact, this amplifier almost nails the last nail into the coffin of the A90. The only reason why I would keep it around is for IEMs, because paired with the gold point stepped attenuator bypassing the pot and using the Spring 2 as the DAC, I think it's one of the best IEM chains that money can buy, quite honestly. It's very resolving, it's got excellent control for volume because you can go from low, medium and high gain and still use the gold point and still have fantastic attenuation. It's the only reason why I have not sold it and replaced it with this for IEMs. Due to the large amount of power for this amplifier, it only works with specific headphones. And that brings us nicely to the next section. Which headphones benefit in using this amplifier as the power source and which headphones don't. Starting with the Hi-Fi Sesvaras, obviously was used for most of the testing of this review. You get absolutely no noise. There is no floor noise. It's fantastic. It's quiet. It's got fantastic control for the bass region. Mid-range is open, airy, transparent. The treble region is hit and miss depending on the source you use, because sometimes it can be a little harsh, but other times it's pretty smooth. The mixing and mastering does make quite a bit of difference on Sesvaras. But next logical jump from the A90 is this amplifier, if you can provide a fantastic stepped attenuator with it to drive Sesvaras. This amplifier is a Class D amplifier, so DC offset is negligible. You're pretty safe using the Hi-Fi Sesvaras with this amplifier. I've been using it for the last 3 weeks with absolutely no issue. Jump into the Dianas. Now, the Dianas do not really need a speaker amplifier to be driven properly. The A90 does a fantastic job. If you've got a bit more of a sweeter amplifier, yes, it can sound great, but this does eke that last bit of performance in the bass region where Dianas can sometimes sound a bit thin and lacking. It actually provides quite good body, opens the stage up a little bit more, and gives you that, yes, I've spent $3,000 on this headphone. The good thing about this amplifier that I can't repeat enough is that it disappears into the background. When it comes down to this amplifier, you have the same mindset as a general consumer when asked about what phone they use, where they look at you and go, I'm using an iPhone. Why are you asking such a weird question? It's a bit like that. The amplifier disappears into the background so much so that you don't really think about it, because it provides enough juice and it's got fantastic control. The timbre is pretty good. The stage is excellent. Not as big as a AHB2, but bigger than a A90. Fantastic results. Going from a planar headphone to a dynamic headphone using beryllium drivers like the Verite Closed. Now, beryllium driver headphones like the VC and like the Stellias behind me are incredibly quick, incredibly responsive. The Verite Closed is a 300 ohm amplifier, so at that ohmage, this amplifier provides somewhere around 8 watts of power at a rough guess. One of you, I'm sure, will do the math and drop it into the comment section down below. But if we can get 425 watts into 4 ohms, going up to 300 ohms, do the math. But definitely enough juice there. That treble region, slight tilt, leads credence into the Verite Closed and actually assists it, give it a bit of air, a bit of openness, which is wonderful, and absolutely no hiss. Unless you're listening so carefully, then you might pick up something. Something that your brain might go, is it there? Maybe, but it's negligible. Almost nothing there at all. And the control it provides for that bass region and that incredible speed of the Verite Closed is actually a very good match. Though the Verite Closed do far better on tubes or a very warm amplifier like the Dynello. This amplifier is a little bit too transparently, I don't want to use the word clinical, but it's a little bit dry. A little tiny bit dry for those headphones specifically. Going to the other beryllium driver headphones, Stellias behind me. Those headphones can be driven to 95% by it's back there somewhere, the IFI Go Blue. So something like this is hiss galore. So you put it on this amplifier, you drop the stepped attenuator to absolute 0, and you're still getting a hiss. It's a bit like the Campfire Andromedas, throwing it on a portable device. You literally have to run around looking for something that matches it perfectly, because there is hiss. Once you listen to music, the hiss goes away, but there is a lack of control. The amount of power that you are inputting into a Stellia does throw the frequency response a little bit out of whack. It's really good for the bass region. It's very responsive and really good attack, but the rest of the frequency response does go out of whack a little bit. So I don't advise using this amplifier for very sensitive, low impedance headphones. It doesn't work. it's not designed for that. It's really not designed for headphones, to be honest with you. It's just that it's so clean, so good controlling that you can use it with something like a Sesvara or a Diana or an Aria. Jump into the LCD XC. That is a very low impedance, high sensitivity headphone as well. Yet there was less hiss than the Stellias and way more than the Verite closed, and compared to the Sesvaras, obviously. But once you play music, it does completely disappear. And the control it provides for the bass region of that planar is absolutely fantastic. Opens up the stage. Those headphones are very, very bright and very, very transparent. But the slight treble tilt leading forwardness of that amplifier with the LCD XC slightly exacerbating the treble region for badly mastered tracks is not a good mix. Unless you're listening to classical that's really well mastered, then it's absolutely beautiful. It's like a clear glass window. It reminds me of a planar HD800S. Those headphones are quite something. So, who is this amplifier for? Let's work out the audience. You have spent all of your money, auctioned off half of your organs and thrown a couple of family members on eBay and bought Sesvaras. Or you have bought the new Stealths from Dan Clark, which are as inefficient as Sesvaras, or you have the Aria and Dianas and you want to drive them a little bit further than where the mid-fi stack that you've had, like the A90, like the Syncsa, have gotten you. This is where you need to go before jumping to a Benchmark or Barkun, because those are twice and 4 times the price. The performance of this amplifier for those headphones is absolutely exceptional, and you will get an immediate difference between that and the A90. It's for you. It's for you who want to jump from the A90, but you have a stepped attenuator. You have listened to this channel in the past and driven the A90 and eked out the last bit of performance from it by bypassing the pot and using a very good stepped attenuator. Now, unless you have IEMs, you can sell the A90 and put the money towards this amplifier, because it will give you the power amp performance, the current, and the drivability for those headphones that the A90 can't. It's got 6 watts of power. It'll get to ear blistering levels of volume. That's not what you want. You want control. And here's the controversy. Here's what people are misunderstanding. It's not about loudness. The Motar Mo2 gets Sesvaras loud. They're $200. But it doesn't sound like Sesvaras. You are providing power to 1 kilohertz at 83 dB sensitivity. And then you are not providing a sine wave. You are not providing a steady note. That's not how music works. This is what's wrong with measurements. It's just a tone that's been applied to specific frequencies and being measured. Measure a freaking song for me, because that song will show you what the amplifier needs to do. It needs to go to 1 kilohertz. It needs to go to 6 kilohertz. It needs to go to 8 kilohertz, 20 hertz, 35 hertz, 65 hertz, 150 hertz, all most of the time simultaneously, one after the other, by providing dynamic range and perfect control. And the amplifier will just crap itself. It will literally crap itself. It can't do it. An A90 can't do that for a Sesvara. And that's where the problem is. Overhead is very important. Current is very important. Control is very important. The power supply is key. I hope this review has helped you to locate the right amplifier for you at the right point of upgrade for your chain. This amplifier gets, for price to performance ratio, 4 solid Tigers from ConvinceMeAudio. I would like to take a moment to thank Grant for sending this amplifier and all the other stuff he sends in for review, mate. It's really very much appreciated. A special thank you to our Patreon members who's keeping the chats over at Audio Lounge and CMA alive. You guys are legends. Thank you so much to all of you for watching these videos and subscribing. We're finally there in the monetization phase now. It's very much appreciated. All done under 10 months. I can't believe it. The reception has been wonderful. You guys are wonderful in the comments. Thank you for all the interactions. I am Koji CO. I will see you in the next one. Peace.